Welcome to this video. Today I want to talk about TikTok due to recent events with it being banned and going dark, which as of right now it appears this ban could potentially be temporary. We'll see what happens, but regardless, I want to approach this from a security and privacy perspective, as that is a focus on this channel. I would ask that you listen to my full comments, not just chunks of it. There's a lot to unpack here, and I don't want anything taken out of context, and a lot of different topics that need to be discussed. To dive right into it, to address the question, is TikTok a privacy and security concern? The simple answer is yes, absolutely 100%. But I also want to point out that those of you who are familiar with my channel know that I feel most, if not all, social media is a privacy and security concern. We will dive into those other social media platforms here in just a moment, but concerning TikTok specifically, there have been studies done to analyze how big of a concern or threat is TikTok. And based on this 2022 analysis, which I will link down in the video description, to no one's surprise, the application does not prioritize privacy and its data collection is overly intrusive and not necessary. Down below, here's a list of some of the data that it does collect. Device mapping, which includes looking at what other applications are installed and running on the user's phone. Location, which is checked at least once an hour. Calendar, for someone who keeps their calendar up to date, TikTok will know what you're up to and what you're doing. Contacts, which if it doesn't have access, it will continuously request. And I should have pointed out earlier that this was all done on an Android phone. And device information, which includes the Wi-Fi SSID, device build serial number, SIM serial number, integrated circuit card identification number, the device IMEI, device MAC address, and device line number. These are all very specific, intricate details of a user's phone. We also know, based on the country where TikTok is from and based out of, that China routinely will use technology to control its population and information, kind of like a credit score, but worse. There's a social score in China, and technology and apps are used to spy on and track their citizens to make sure they are obeying, and if they are not, they are punished. And so it basically comes down to if they are willing to spy on and manipulate and control information for their own citizens, of course they're going to be willing to do that abroad and in foreign countries. And that really is the concern with TikTok in the United States. Not only that it could be used as spyware, but also used to manipulate and influence public opinion by controlling the type of information and media that is spread on its platform. And all of these concerns are valid and real. But we also need to keep in mind that a lot of other social media services and a lot of other tech companies do the same thing. And a lot of people approach it from, well, everybody does this, so I might as well just use TikTok. There are some key differences though. For example, if we compare TikTok to Facebook, which Facebook is a terrible company for privacy and security, a lot of that stuff that I just talked about in that study, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, they do it as well. That's all the same company. And they've had scandals around collecting user data, and that is well documented. But again, some of the key differences is one is based out of China, the other one is based out of the United States. One of those countries has a worse record of manipulating data and controlling the populace. While it's not perfect in the United States, and there's definitely room for improvement, it definitely has a better record than China as far as free speech and free information. We also know, based on laws in China, that a company could potentially be forced to cooperate with government orders around data collection and manipulation, controlling information. But I should also point out those can become concerns in the United States as well. And we cannot have the mindset of just because we're in the United States that that's not a threat. And that's why it's so important to have laws to help support the movement and freedom of information and media. Now back to my earlier comment that other companies outside of TikTok do these type of things as well. Of course, Facebook I've mentioned, Meta, which includes Instagram, Threads, WhatsApp, which has had multiple security concerns. But even Google, and yes, we're on YouTube right now, which is a Google product. It's a type of social media, and Google does not have a good track record for privacy. Also includes Google Maps. Google Search, and this includes all other search engines, can be used to manipulate the spread of information and news and media if they really wanted to. If you go search a specific term, they could filter out one side of the story if they choose to do so. Microsoft is also a concern. It controls one of the most popular operating systems in the world. It also has LinkedIn, which is a social media platform, and controls Bing, which is a search engine. Again, for the same reasons I just talked about with Google. Amazon, Snapchat, X, formerly known as Twitter, Reddit, Twitch, Apple, dating apps such as Tinder, Hinge, Bumble. These are also massive privacy and security concerns. The list goes on and on. These companies care about making a profit and often neglect user privacy and security. We can even look at a company like Avast Antivirus, which was fined for collecting user data. And this is supposed to be a security company, but it's also been known for decades that when you use free software, it's not truly free. You are paying for it with your data. And this is true for basically all free software. Kaspersky Antivirus was banned, and it's not a complete apples-to-apple comparison to TikTok because antivirus software gets extreme deep permissions on a user's device. But you also have to be aware of how many video games out there are owned by Chinese companies. If we look at Steam right now today, some of the most popular video games that are being played and installed on people's computers are Chinese owned. Marvel's Rival, for example. Path of Exile is another one. You might be surprised, and maybe you don't know how many on this list are actually Chinese-owned games. Some are even Russian-owned. Are we going to get into a habit of just banning any application or software? It becomes a very slippery slope. What happens when a benign software application which has information, news, or topics that people disagree with is targeted to be banned simply because people disagree and it is labeled as a threat and people start to move or want to move towards banning it? It becomes a very slippery slope. Again, I want to be clear. I don't think anyone should be using or installing TikTok, but I also think that most people should get away from using a lot of the solutions that I mentioned earlier, a lot of the applications, the technology, just because they do not prioritize user security and privacy. We also see when apps are banned, people start migrating to alternatives. Some of the most popular apps right now are Chinese owned. RedNote, Lemon8, and others have seen a spike in user adoption and account creation and downloads. This also came up when the government was trying to force backdoors into end-to-end encrypted applications. You're not solving the problem. Criminals are just going to migrate to an alternative solution. Again, for the third or fourth time, I want to mention TikTok 100% is a security and privacy risk. 100% it should not be on any government device or military device. If there ever was a conflict, absolutely the Chinese would try to use it as spyware. They may even try to push a malicious update to said software. Historically, there's also been concerns about the Chinese putting backdoors in computer hardware. This has come up with the US military, and there's been multiple reports of this over the years, as well as concerns about whether or not Lenovo, which is a Chinese company, is safe and should be used. But where does this red line end and begin? Are we going to start banning video games and other software? And don't be foolish in thinking that this couldn't happen locally as well. So as far as recommendations or what I would do, I would strongly recommend to all users as much as possible, don't use social media services. Again, we're on YouTube right now, and I am grateful that you are all here and listening. It's a choice. There's even alternatives to YouTube. And I believe in most situations, people should have a choice. If you're going to use a social media application, the ones I would strongly recommend you avoid is, again, TikTok and others like it, but also anything from Meta, such as Facebook and Instagram. But if you're going to use these services, try to use them in a web browser instead of installing an application on your device. That can increase privacy. Also, in general, install as few apps as possible on your devices. This overall will just increase privacy, security, and even legitimate apps can be hijacked. The fewer apps you have on your devices, the better. Be conscious of what you post. Post as little as possible. Make sure you're reviewing your settings, your privacy and security settings. And also, this goes back to an earlier topic that we haven't talked about recently, but net neutrality. One of the big reasons why this channel supported net neutrality is it not only prevented throttling of certain services and websites, but it also forces internet service providers to treat all legal websites the same and prevent censorship or unbalanced information spreading. The same thing should be applied to social media, where conversations are being held, news is being spread, and there needs to be reviews to make sure that said applications are meeting those type of standards. And this goes into needing more regulation to protect users' privacy, user security, and the equal spread of news, opinion, and free speech. I will also mention getting off of social media does have a mental health benefit. Studies have shown that. Getting more involved in the real world can be refreshing and will definitely benefit you. If you have any comments or questions on this topic, please feel free to post them down in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please consider sharing it. And if you would like to support the channel, go ahead and hit that join button, the subscribe button, the thanks button, or that bell notification icon to get notifications on future videos. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a great day.